courtroom buzzed with quiet anticipation, a tension so thick it felt as though it could snap at any moment. At the center of it all, she sat, her chin tilted, eyes flashing with confidence, a smirk that said she already owned the room. The officer's daughter, accustomed to doors opening at her slightest whim, believed her father's name was armor enough to protect her from any consequence. She tapped her fingers lightly on the polished wood, glancing around at the spectators, as if daring anyone to challenge her. Murmurs rippled through the room, whispers of privilege meeting curiosity, some shocked, others secretly rooting for her fall. Then the doors opened. Judge Caprio entered, slow and deliberate, his presence commanding immediate silence. The chatter evaporated. Every eye shifted, every head turned. His gaze, steady and unwavering, swept across the courtroom, assessing, judging not just the case, but the character of everyone present. There was no arrogance in him, no need for spectacle. The air seemed to tighten around him, quiet authority that demanded respect and demanded truth. She leaned back, still smirking, convinced she could outwit him. Yet there was something in his calmness, a quiet intelligence, that hinted this was not a game she could manipulate. The room felt suspended in time, the balance of power invisible but palpable. And then, as Judge Caprio cleared his throat and raised an eyebrow, the entire courtroom leaned in, breath caught in anticipation. But what happened next left the courtroom gasping in disbelief. What seemed like a routine traffic incident had suddenly transformed into a spectacle with national eyes watching. The courtroom, once a quiet hall of local proceedings, was now a stage for a larger story privilege, confronting justice, wealth testing the boundaries of morality. Reporters crowded the hallways, their cameras clicking, their lenses capturing every glance, every flicker of expression. Social media had already begun buzzing. Hashtags trending, short clips circulating, commentary spreading like wildfire. Every whispered conversation, every subtle nod was being recorded, shared, and dissected. The officer's daughter adjusted her posture, confidence radiating outward, but the whispers around her told a different story. Spectators murmured about her family connections, her entitlement, and the audacity of someone so young to challenge the law with such bravado. On the benches, smartphones discreetly recorded each moment, capturing every smirk and every glance as if the world itself was taking notes. Outside the courtroom, news alerts pinged across screens, framing the case as a litmus test for fairness, privilege, and the integrity of the legal system. The stakes were no longer just about tickets or fines. This was about public trust, about whether the law was truly impartial or whether influence and wealth could tilt the scales. Morality itself seemed to hang in the balance, each action scrutinized, each reaction amplified. Friends and strangers alike were watching, silently forming opinions, predicting outcomes, sharing judgments. The daughter, surrounded by attention, yet isolated by expectation, felt the weight of more than just her own reputation. Judge Caprio, seated calmly at the bench, understood the currents swirling beyond the room's walls. His measured gaze swept the spectators, unshaken by the cameras, the whispers, or the trending headlines. For him, this was not just a courtroom challenge. It was a moment to reinforce the principle that justice does not bend for privilege, and while the daughter believed she had rehearsed every argument, every possible maneuver to maintain control, she had yet to see the depth of his experience, the precision of his judgment, and the inevitability of what was about to unfold. The daughter thought she had it all figured out, but she underestimated her opponent. She grew up in a world where doors opened at her touch and rules seemed more like suggestions than obligations. The daughter of a decorated officer, she had been insulated from consequences from an early age. Mistakes that would have derailed others' lives were quietly smoothed over, privileges extended, and reputations shielded. At elite schools, she learned not only to command attention, but to wield it like a weapon, to bend circumstances subtly in her favor. Her smirk wasn't merely arrogance, it was a shield forged over years of always getting what she wanted. A posture of unshakable entitlement. Her past was dotted with incidents that hinted at a pattern. A minor altercation at a social event was dismissed when her father intervened. A parking violation became a fleeting embarrassment when connections quietly erased the record. Even within her circle of peers, she was known for a cunning charm, a way of twisting situations to appear blameless while others bore the consequences. Each small victory reinforced a dangerous belief. The rules applied to everyone else, not her. She had learned to expect compliance, not resistance. It's an admiration rather than judgment. Yet, beneath the polished exterior and rehearsed smiles, there were cracks. Her reliance on privilege had left her untested in the face of true authority. Confidence, unchecked by real accountability, had hardened into hubris. Every dismissive glance, every carefully measured laugh, was a reminder that she saw the world as malleable, a place to assert dominance with little regard for fairness or integrity. It was this very hubris that had carried her to the courthouse that day, convinced she could outwit a judge who had faced countless challenges, each more complex than the last, in stark contrast. Judge Caprio's presence was not built on lineage or influence. His authority came from experience, fairness, and a lifetime of decisions tempered by justice rather than convenience. Where she wielded entitlement, he exercised discernment. Where she relied on connections, he relied on principle. Her smug confidence now collided with an unwavering moral compass, and the disparity could be felt in the tense air. A silent battle already unfolding between unchecked privilege and measured authority. The audience, aware of her reputation through murmurs and media snippets, sensed the imbalance. Some eyes narrowed in anticipation, waiting for the inevitable confrontation, while others watched in disbelief at the audacity of someone so accustomed to escaping accountability. Every small action she took, the tilt of her head, the flick of her hair, the careful placement of her hands was meant to convey control. Yet it only highlighted her dependence on inherited power. Rather than earned merit, every smirk hides a flaw, and the judge was about to expose it. Judge Caprio's presence in the courtroom was the embodiment of measured authority. Decades on the bench had refined not just his knowledge of the law, but his understanding of human nature, the way arrogance reveals itself in gestures, how guilt and deception attempt to hide behind polished words. He had built a reputation not through spectacle or intimidation, but through unwavering fairness and an insistence that justice served truth rather than convenience. Those who appeared before him quickly learned that no lineage, wealth, or influence could bend the principles he upheld. Throughout his career, he had faced countless attempts to manipulate the system. Once a high-profile corporate executive tried to leverage connections to evade serious charges. Caprio dismantled every claim with meticulous logic, exposing contradictions that even the seasoned attorney could not defend. The public lauded his patience and precision, while the guilty had no choice but to acknowledge that principle outweighed power. Another case involved a local politician who attempted to sway proceedings with charm and subtle threats. Caprio remained unmoved, his calm reasoning cutting through deception like a blade, leaving the courtroom in awe of his clarity and moral courage. Each victory had reinforced his belief that integrity, patience, and analytical brilliance were more formidable than intimidation or status. Caprio's authority was quiet, almost unassuming at first glance, yet it resonated deeply with those who understood the weight of his judgment. He listened longer than necessary, absorbing every nuance of speech, every micro-expression. He could anticipate misdirection, foresee attempts at distraction, and guide proceedings without ever betraying impatience. His calm demeanor often disarmed those who thought they could rely on flair or theatrics. By the time they realized his insight, it was already too late. Beyond the courtroom, Caprio's life had been shaped by a profound sense of civic duty. He had grown up understanding the fragility of justice, witnessing communities falter under favoritism and corruption. That awareness had fueled his dedication, compelling him to pursue a career where fairness was not just an aspiration, but a requirement. His decisions reflected more than legal knowledge; they carried the weight of moral conviction, the belief that dignity and respect should never be compromised, even for the most influential individuals. Those entering his courtroom often felt the quiet pressure of history and precedent, Sensing that their words and actions were measured against decades of unwavering consistency, Caprio did not need theatrics. His reputation alone spoke volumes, inspiring trust in witnesses, jurors, and the public alike. He was the embodiment of patience and precision, a man whose calm authority could turn even the most chaotic confrontation into a testament of integrity and clarity. Little did the courtroom know, Caprio's experience would turn the tables completely. The courtroom crackled with tension as the officer's daughter leaned forward. Her voice smooth and deliberate, each word carefully crafted to bend the proceedings in her favor. She cited obscure precedents, twisted technicalities, and delivered arguments laced with confidence, the kind only privilege could produce. Every syllable was designed to intimidate, to project control, yet beneath the surface. A hint of desperation flickered in anxiety she could not entirely mask. Judge Caprio remained perfectly still, his expression calm, his gaze unwavering. He listened, absorbing each claim, weighing the substance against the law, showing no sign of distraction or frustration. Around them, the audience shifted in their seats. Whispered speculations, subtle glances, and the occasional stifled gasp punctuated the air. Smartphones discreetly recorded every exchange. Short video clips already circulating online, trending with hashtags questioning entitlement, privilege, and accountability. The murmurs reflected a collective tension. Would influence triumph over integrity? Or would the courtroom's guardian of justice prevail? The daughter's confidence began to waver under the silent scrutiny. Small signs betrayed her composure, a tightening of the jaw, a flicker of hesitation, a glance toward her father as if seeking silent reassurance. As she pressed harder, attempting to corner the judge with layered arguments and rhetorical flourishes, the courtroom seemed to hold its breath. Her logic, polished on the surface, began to show cracks under Caprio's silent analysis. Each attempt to sway him met only quiet evaluation, his calm presence absorbing the energy meant to intimidate him. Outside the courtroom, social media buzzed with excitement. Clips of her poised yet tense demeanor were shared across feeds, sparking debates, predictions, and growing anticipation. The world watched, waiting for a crack, an opening, a reversal. The daughter's composure began to fray. Her practiced smirk faltered, replaced by subtle signs of frustration. Her arguments, once confident and assertive, now stumbled under the weight of scrutiny she had never encountered before. The room sensed the shift, the momentum that had seemed to favor her was slipping, imperceptibly but unmistakably, toward the judge. And then, with impeccable timing, Caprio delivered a response that left everyone speechless. Judge Caprio's voice cut through the tension with calm precision, deliberate and measured. "Let us examine the facts," he began, his tone unassuming yet carrying an authority that made the courtroom lean in. The daughter's confident smirk faltered slightly as he outlined the chain of events, each detail presented with clarity and patience. No flourish, no dramatics, just unassailable logic and meticulous reasoning. The room seemed to pause, waiting as he methodically dismantled her arguments. Point by point, she tried to interject, her voice sharp, attempting to regain control. But Caprio allowed a subtle pause, a quiet moment that forced her to confront the fragility of her position. "Your reliance on technicalities overlooks the broader context of responsibility," he continued, each word deliberate, each sentence a precision strike. He cited precedents she had claimed supported her position, then showed how they were irrelevant or misinterpreted, referencing specific cases, judicial interpretations, and legal principles with ease. His calm dissection left no room for evasion, no corner for privilege to hide behind as he spoke. The audience leaned forward, sensing the shift. Whispered exchanges turned to stunned silence. Phones still recording captured every moment, short clips already circulating on social media, showing a young woman's confidence eroding under the steady pressure of truth. Even the gallery, previously divided between curiosity and sympathy for her position, now watched with collective astonishment. Witnessing a performance of authority that transcended reputation or status, the daughter's gestures became smaller, less assured. Her hands, once bold and deliberate, fidgeted nervously on the desk. Her eyes darted toward her father, seeking reassurance that was not coming, hoping perhaps for intervention that would never arrive. Caprio, ever observant, noted each hesitation. He allowed pauses long enough to let the room absorb the weight of each revelation, letting the silence amplify the impact of truth. Every rebuttal he delivered seemed to tighten an invisible grip around the daughter's confidence, constricting it until each argument she had prepared with care began to collapse under the inexorable clarity of justice. Caprio's methodical approach included both legal rigor and psychological insight. He anticipated attempts to distract or derail, countering with questions that exposed contradictions and logical gaps. The daughter tried to recover, employing charm, rhetorical skill, and subtle intimidation, but each tactic met the same calm, unwavering resistance. He used her own words, her own arguments, turning them back with precision to reveal inconsistencies she could no longer defend. The courtroom absorbed each reversal with rising tension, spectators sensing the finality of each point. Even as Caprio remained composed, the drama escalated. The daughter's composure slipped further, her posture tightening, her voice faltering, her calculated expressions cracking into uncertainty. The room reacted in real-time gasps, stifled murmurs, and wide-eyed observers who could feel the gravity of the moment. Social media users watching live streams or clips shared in disbelief, hashtags spreading that captured both her audacity and her unraveling, hashtag justice over privilege, hashtag Caprio strikes back, hashtag courtroom humbling. The courtroom became a stage for both justice and spectacle, the hero's authority radiating through every measured word and deliberate gesture. Caprio paused deliberately at one moment, letting the silence settle over the courtroom like a heavy weight. He looked directly at the daughter, his gaze steady, unflinching, almost gentle in its inevitability. "Confidence is admirable," he said softly, "but it cannot substitute for accountability." The impact of the statement rippled through the room, invisible yet undeniable. Every observer recognized the truth of it, simplicity and power of the principle that wealth, status, and arrogance cannot outweigh integrity. As he continued, the dismantling became almost surgical. Each legal nuance she had hoped would protect her was stripped away with calm precision. Her attempts at deflection, persuasion, and subtle intimidation failed one by one, each met by a steady hand and unshakable reasoning. Caprio's authority, born of experience and patience, transformed the courtroom into a theater of inevitability. There was no spectacle needed. The weight of truth delivered with clarity and moral certainty was enough. The daughter's confidence finally collapsed entirely. Her shoulders slumped, her words faltered, and the smirk vanished completely, replaced by the stark realization that she had miscalculated, underestimated, and misread the judge before her. The courtroom held its collective breath as the final points landed, each one a testament to the triumph of diligence and principle over manipulation and entitlement. The audience, both in the gallery and across social media, felt the surge of catharsis justice prevailing in real time, witnessed by hundreds, amplified by thousands, and celebrated by the inevitability of truth. By the time Judge Caprio concluded, the courtroom was silent, the tension replaced by a reverent acknowledgement of mastery and integrity. His voice calm yet definitive delivered the closing observation: privilege may open doors, but it cannot rewrite the law, nor can it shield one from accountability. The words hung in the air, heavy with finality, leaving no room for argument, no space for doubt. The daughter, once poised and confident, sat defeated, her carefully constructed facade shattered by the methodical brilliance of a man who understood that justice was not a performance but a duty fulfilled with patience, clarity, and unwavering moral courage. The courtroom erupted. The social media storm had only just begun. The moment Judge Caprio delivered his final words, the courtroom seemed to hold its breath, and then the world outside erupted. Phones clicked incessantly. Cameras recorded every reaction, and within minutes, snippets of the confrontation were circulating online. Short clips captured the daughter's faltering confidence, her smirk replaced by the weight of inevitability. The calm authority of Caprio, contrasted with her unraveling composure, became the centerpiece of countless posts, shared and reshared across social media platforms. Hashtags trended almost instantly. Hashtag justice served. Hashtag Capriova's privilege. Hashtag courtroom humbling. Memes began to appear, juxtaposing her arrogance with the judge's serene demeanor. Clever captions emphasizing the stark contrast between entitlement and accountability. GIFs of her attempts to argue, followed by Caprio's dismantling of each point, circulated with captions like, "When privilege meets principle, and not today." Entitlement. Even casual observers who had not followed the courtroom proceedings were drawn into the narrative. The viral nature of the content amplifying the drama and emotional resonance. Commentators weighed in, dissecting every moment with meticulous attention. Legal analysts highlighted Caprio's precision, praising the methodical way he exposed flaws in her arguments. Opinion pieces reflected on the broader societal implications. The challenge of privilege confronting justice. The reminder that status cannot override accountability. And the enduring lesson that integrity and patience are more powerful than influence or arrogance. Celebrities and public figures sharing their reactions added further weight to the story, lending a cultural validation that cemented the event as more than a courtroom incident, became a national talking point. The daughter's attempt at manipulation quickly transformed into a cautionary tale. Videos dissecting her body language, tone, and strategy went viral, emphasizing how overconfidence and reliance on inherited influence could be undone by clarity, preparation, and ethical steadfastness. Social media debates flared, dividing audiences between fascination, schadenfreude, and admiration for the judge's composure. People shared, tagged friends, and engaged in discussions that extended far beyond the courtroom walls. Commentary was no longer limited to legal circles. It had entered mainstream conversation, shaping perceptions of accountability, morality, the role of influence in society. In the gallery, spectators reflected the same frenzy. Whispers of astonishment, laughter at her miscalculations, and admiration for Caprio's restraint filled the room. Even her father, present yet powerless, could not shield her from the public scrutiny that followed. Outside, local and national media outlets ran analyses, breaking down the confrontation into headlines designed to capture attention, spark discussion, and provoke reflection on the consequences of entitlement unchecked by integrity. The event became a touchstone, a viral phenomenon blending justice with spectacle. Clips were used in educational segments, social media commentary, and even late-night discussions. The daughter's failed attempt at manipulation, juxtaposed with Caprio's measured brilliance, became emblematic of a broader principle. No one is above the law. And accountability, when delivered with patience and insight, resonates far beyond the immediate moment. Beyond the viral videos and memes, a deeper lesson emerged. As the echoes of the courtroom faded, Judge Caprio's presence remained, a quiet reminder that justice is measured not by influence but by principle. The confrontation had begun as a clash of privilege versus authority, a test of whether status could outweigh fairness. Yet what unfolded was far more than a single case. It became a demonstration of enduring truths. Privilege, no matter how polished or protected, cannot overpower integrity. Arrogance, no matter how rehearsed or confident, cannot withstand patience and discernment. Caprio reframed the moment, not as a personal victory, but as a lesson for all who observed. He spoke of responsibility, of the invisible threads that bind society together, and the importance of accountability in every sphere of life. Confidence must be tempered by respect for rules. Power must be balanced by humility. And every action, no matter how small, carries consequences that extend far beyond immediate perception. The courtroom had witnessed a failure of entitlement, but it also witnessed the triumph of steadfast dignity, a reminder that moral courage, exercised consistently, is the most formidable force of all. The audience, both present and online, absorbed the lesson with a mixture of awe and inspiration. Witnessing the daughter's unraveling alongside Caprio's unwavering composure left a lasting impression. Real influence comes not from inherited advantage, but from character, wisdom, and an unshakable commitment to justice. Observers reflected on their own interactions, privileges, and responsibilities. Recognizing the universal relevance of what they had seen, the narrative extended beyond the courtroom, becoming a touchstone for discussions on fairness, ethics, and civic duty. In that quiet aftermath, a broader truth crystallized. Society flourishes when individuals act with integrity, when patience guides action, and when dignity tempers ambition. Arrogance and entitlement may create temporary illusions of power, but only enduring values withstand scrutiny, challenge, and time. Caprio's measured authority demonstrated that true strength is not shown through dominance or intimidation, but through consistent adherence to principles that uplift and protect the greater good. And as the dust settled, the courtroom's lesson echoed far beyond its walls. The story of the officer's daughter attempting to outsmart Judge Caprio and failing serves as more than just a courtroom drama. It is a reminder that no amount of privilege or entitlement can override integrity, patience, and moral clarity. What we witnessed was a triumph of principle over arrogance, a moment where justice spoke louder than influence, and dignity prevailed over spectacle. This lesson resonates far beyond a single case. It is a story that challenges each of us to reflect on our own values, choices, and the kind of society we want to uphold. If this story inspired you, made you pause, or reminded you of the power of accountability, we encourage you to join the conversation. Share your thoughts in the comments, discuss the lessons with friends and family, and reflect on what it means to stand for integrity in your own life. Your voice contributes to a larger community that values fairness, courage, and the kind of moral clarity that Judge Caprio exemplified. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay connected to stories that blend drama, insight, and inspiration. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a moment of these compelling narratives. Share this video with others who appreciate stories of justice and resilience, and help spread the discussion across social media platforms. Together, we can amplify stories that matter, spark meaningful conversation, celebrate the triumph of principle over privilege. This is more than a video. It's an invitation to engage, reflect, and take part in a community that values justice, dignity, and the courage to uphold what is right. Remember, privilege may open doors, but integrity and patience open minds, and they leave a lasting impact far beyond the courtroom.